Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever it may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 631. My name is Eric Nielsen, and with me today, I have my most favorite co-host, Corey Romero. Today is Wednesday, December 21st, 2022, heading into the holiday season. Thought we would do a holiday podcast talking about what you can be doing over the holiday with your own Homelab. VMUG Homelab program that we're running has Intel NUCs with vSphere 8 for $450. We're going to be talking about that. We have Matt Heldstab, who is going to be talking about all the things VMUG. So we're talking about VMUG, home labs, and stuff. So Corey Romero, before we get started, how you doing up there in Utah? And how's the weather up there?
Weather has actually been nice. It's a little cloudy, but hasn't been snowing. We did get snow for 5 days straight, 24 hours a day, nonstop snow, which was great. And I know we've got another storm rolling in today, so it's going to get busy.
Very nice. Well, we have a storm coming in next week, so you'll probably get some more. I think Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we got another storm rolling through, which is great. We've had a lot of water in California, which our reservoirs were low, so all good to get that weather, get that weather in here. The color of the bay, it is a beautiful sunny day today. We got sun until next Tuesday. It's going to be nice for the holiday. It has been cold. We've got some winter coming on. It's been like in the 30s in the nights. We actually had freezing. I slipped on ice on my back patio the other day. I think that's a first. I've never had ice on the ground, right? Very rare for that, but we've had a lot of frost, snow in the local mountains in Santa Cruz, up in Mount Hamilton, quite a bit of snow all around the Bay Area, and ice in Palo Alto. So it's been fun times. Color of the Bay is a nice choppy green, not too bad, not too horrible. So that's great. So Matt, we're going to be talking to Matt in a bit, but before we go there, Corey, I know there's a lot of VExpert stuff going on, so why don't we go through a little of that?
Yeah, so I've got some great updates, and so for the VExpert Intel drives, they are starting to ship. So we have chosen 28 of the VExperts so far, and those who have been picked have been sent an invite with a meeting with Intel. We're going to go over technical questions, where you are in your lab. This won't happen until I believe it's the 16th. So get some time for the drives to ship to arrive. So we just want to kind of see if anyone needs help. So we'll catch up on that meeting. Those who did apply for the Intel drives and were not chosen, we will have a meeting for you to attend, where we can see if we can help you get your blog back running, get the content going back up, getting your Twitter account more active, kind of see how we can help you be successful, because we do want you expressed interest. We do want you to have these drives in your hands. So that meeting invite will go out shortly. We will have also a second phase to give away these drives. Those will come after the new year. So watch for that email. And to go along with that, for the non-US VExperts, Intel is doing what they can to provide an invoice that has a lower cost to help with the VAT tax. So those of you that were worried about high taxes on these drives, since they have a high retail value, this is a gift from Intel and VMware, and so we will work with you via email over that. Also, I've shared 7 videos so far from VExperts that I did interviews with on the VExpert program. For those of you who know or don't know, your applications for VExpert are currently open until January 13th. Please make sure you get your application in. Also, VExperts, please go to VExpert on Twitter and retweet the 7 videos and add your own comments. Feel free to also make your own video about the VExpert program, but tell your own story. Don't just put out the date. Tell your own story. Give your own experience. Tag VExpert. I'd love to share those. I love seeing. I know there's quite a few of them doing them right now, so great to see. Homelab blog articles that you have submitted have been going out on the Twitter VExpert channel, and I will finish tweeting out the rest of the blog articles by tonight, so we'll get those out. And the VExpert application, when you went in to go fill out and update your VExpert application for the 2023 program, it had some issues yesterday and today, and there was a notice that said the legal check did not go through. There was a faulty API call that we were doing, so we've disabled that. I will do everything on the back end manually myself, so if you were having issues with that, please go back in, update your application if it didn't save. And if you're a new applicant, please go back in and apply. that error is now gone, and you should be good to go.
Awesome. Well, lots of activity there. Exciting to see us doing hardware, right? Intel program, the NUCs that we gave away. And now we're here on today's show to talk about how you can get your own NUCs. You can go get VMUG Advantage for the vSphere 8 licenses and get your own Homelab going. We're excited about that because obviously vSphere 8 is out and people like the NUCs. So we had some that are extra from the vendor that we can sell at a pretty good price. And we're going to be working through VMUG all of next year promoting, get your Homelab without a fan buzzing, quiet on your desk for, $450. No reason not to have vSphere 8 running locally in your home. I noticed Matt Lungeth has joined us. Matt, how's it going? Welcome to the show. Always great to have you here. How's it going up there in Michigan?
I have no idea how it's in Michigan.
Oh, sorry, Pennsylvania, other Michigan. Yeah.
I think in Michigan right now, it is probably epically freezing. I just was talking with a customer in Denver where the temperature is supposed to drop almost 50 degrees tonight. I know that the wind chills slightly north of there in Cheyenne, Wyoming, are going to be in the negative 50s here in the next coming weekends. But Eric, I'm well. Thank you for asking. Those pesky customers, as we often say, sometimes get in the way of joining on time, but always appreciate the opportunity to be here with yourself, Corey, and of course our esteemed guest, Mr. Matt Heldstab, a friend, a colleague, and a fellow VMUG enthusiast to talk here about all things Homelab and whatnot. I do want to say before we get to that, at some point in today's conversation, I think it's important to talk about Twitter and some of the things that have been going on with that because it's so integral to what is the V community and where that might be going in the future. And especially with two VMUG senior personnel that are now joining us between yourself and Mr. Heldstab, how that might impact things in 23 and other platforms that are out there and maybe taking over between LinkedIn and Mastodon and whatnot. So maybe we can touch on that briefly, but we certainly want to, introduce Mr. Heldstab and talk about all things Homelab. But before we get to all of that, sir, if we haven't done so already, my favorite questions. How are you? How are things out there on the West Coast? I know there was an earthquake in Northern California yesterday at a 6.7 that did some damage, and unfortunately some people were injured. And what is the color of the bay?
Yeah, you are joining late. We covered the color of the bay, but the only highlight I'll give you, Matt, is that it has been super cold in the Bay Area. It was like 29 degrees 2 nights ago. It's been 30 at night, below freezing. We actually have had snow on all the mountains.
What are you Southern California or Northern Californians going to do with yourselves?
I actually have a hoodie on today because it's cold up in the upstairs room, and it has been icy. I slipped on ice on the back patio yesterday. That's a first since I've lived in California for 25 years. I've never had ice on the ground stay throughout the day, right? But it's been cold. We've had cold front. I can't complain because everybody else, where else in the nation, it's much colder. In Europe, we were over there. It's pretty chilly as well. So yeah, can't complain. On the land of Twitter, maybe we'll introduce Matt, get through Matt first, and then we can talk about Twitter. The short for anybody that's listening to this before they bail is that I think the Twitter thing, we're going to keep using Twitter. We've talked to executives at VMware. I think there might be a cutback on ad spending, right? We might adjust ad spending, giving revenue to people that, we don't necessarily like what their policies are at any given time. We adjust that from time to time. But from a communication perspective, earned, just having conversations amongst the community, we're just pretty much moving forward on Twitter like we typically would. And then we'll adjust, things that are happening. We do spend millions of dollars with the different social channels with ads paid. And I think we've dialed the Twitter down to 0 at this moment while we watch things unfold over there and see if they get a little bit more stable. So I know that Elon Musk announced that he was going to no longer be the CEO. So maybe he's starting to adjust that. So
I have no political orientation with this or whatnot. I just simply look at it that with some of their policy changes as far as linking to other social sites, with YouTube, with LinkedIn, with other profiles and whatnot, I know a lot of our community members use that as a means to share their content. And when those policies now are being restrictive, again, that's not, it is what it is. It may force, because of those restrictions, people to start looking at other content platforms.
Yeah.
Could they still be posting to Twitter and whatnot? Sure. Yeah. But how that ultimately, what their source of truth is or where their primary posts start to go, that may start to change.
Yeah, and we definitely look at, at VMware. I know because I ran the social channels for a lot of years. I just transitioned back to branding maybe 3 or 4 months ago when I took over the VMUG work. But I still engage with them weekly. I still do run the channel strategy. And what I'd say is we look at channels once a quarter. And we're always looking at ways to add new ones, right? Whether it's Instagram or WeChat or Weibo or globally all the social channels, and then we use them appropriately. There is no such thing as a single social channel. It's we're definitely an omni-channel org, and we use them all over the place. It is sad because VMware, the community ecosystem definitely uses Twitter. And so we want to pay attention to that and make sure that, like you say, if we can't link off to a YouTube video or other content and blogs and so forth, we've always been able to do that. If they start restricting that, then the V community as an ecosystem will have to look at other things that we want to use. And we've always been supportive of whatever the community uses, we're going to support the community. So, yeah.
And to that end, I know that several have started to make a migration or at least start to look at Mastodon as a platform. A VMware employee, Michael Stancliffe, has set up his own Mastodon instance that is out there that several senior members of the VMware community have, I don't want to say migrated to, but started to explore the possibility. So there has been some introduction and whatnot. So if Mastodon, if the community that is listening has an interest in that platform, there is, there is that option, if you will, from a community member that has set up an instance, and that you could follow him along and use that particular to, engage with the Mastodon platform.
And we've always had those kind of things. Like Twitch was really popular 2 or 3 years ago. And so we did Twitch, we did VMworld 2020 with Twitch channels, which the Twitch guys, I forget their names already, but we had them on the show and we talked about using Twitch. And we'll always be like, actually our biggest social channel right now is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is actually bigger than Twitter, right? We don't tend to use LinkedIn for community conversations, but LinkedIn is by far the biggest channel that drives the most volume, run by Microsoft now. And yeah, we stay flexible. Yep.
Even since the end, let's say the end of November, mid-November, I've seen several more, and maybe Matt can comment to this as well, of the more technical discussions and the more technical threads that you would traditionally see on the Twitter space have now maybe moved over to LinkedIn. It's been a marked shift, so it may come back. Who knows? I'm personally consider to cross post and whatnot. I don't think this is settled by any means yet, but it's starting.
I don't think most of the community people really understand how popular LinkedIn is now, right? If everybody understood how popular it is, they would be making sure they were dual posting things, because LinkedIn is a beast now. It used to be Twitter was the beast, and Twitter's still obviously very, now, and we like it. It's Twitter, right? But if you look at traffic volume, LinkedIn, people are there to engage with their career material. So it's definitely something to pay attention to.
All right. So
right,
to that blogger that's listening along, LinkedIn as well, right? Sure.
Yep.
Back to you, Eric.
All right, so before we run out of time, let's get to Matt. Let's talk about VMUG, VMUG Advantage, and the Homelab. So, Matt, we always start on the podcast because we're a community podcast. Give us an elevator pitch, maybe 2-3 minutes of what's your career arc look like? Where did you come out of college, and what have you been doing, and how did you end up in the VMware ecosystem? And obviously, you're a board member on VMUG. So, why don't you take a little bit of time and tell us who you are?
Yeah, thanks, Eric and Matt. First off, thank you so much for having me here. Just last Friday, got an email. I'm like, wow, that's a fantastic opportunity. So glad to be here. So I've been in the IT industry about 26 years. Originally, I went to college for geographic information systems. And then I also had a minor in mass communications. And I've actually been able to use that in my career as an engineer and I've actually got a talk that I've done several times at local user cons on the importance of public speaking for engineers. But we can talk about that at another time. But for my career arc, I started with VMware Technologies back in around 2006. It was our kind of an associate CIO that came up to me and said, "Have you ever heard of this VMware?" And I was a desktop engineer. And so I didn't have a whole lot of experience. We were a no-bill shop, but I wanted to broaden my horizons. So I decided, yeah, hey, let's take a look at it. And I think that was back in the 3.0 days, full-blown ESX, where you actually had to partition varlog. It's something that we don't have to worry about anymore. It's come a long way, definitely. But shortly after that, I took my first ICM class and saw my first vMotion, which changed my life, changed my career. I think that if you talk to folks that are in my role, senior engineer, that have been using VMware for a while, everybody can point back to that first vMotion and when they saw it and how it made them feel and how they knew it was going to change everything. And so after that, I think around 2008, that same gentleman that had us install ESX said, "Have you ever heard of this Horizon," or not Horizon at the time, it was VMware View. Have you ever heard of that before? And this was back in the 2.5 VDM days. And then it went to 3.0, I think is when they renamed it View. So that was the version that we deployed. We had a whole bunch of Sun hardware that came back to us from a conference, including Sunrays. You guys familiar with what a Sunray is?
Yeah.
It is old school, thin client.
Right.
Yeah, this is the first. It's a fantastic device that we used for a long time. And from that point forward, we just took the ride, and we've been running Horizon ever since. So 2008 was my first VMworld as well. And, your first VMworld story is always the same, right? Everybody goes, schedules full of sessions, hit the lab, and you're not using any time for networking. The second VMworld is the time where people typically understand that the people are as important as the content. And but the first VMworld, I came back with a whole bunch of ideas. And but after my second VMworld in 2012, got plugged into the community, I started understanding the value of having a Homelab, and started my first Homelab with workstation on a laptop with a whole bunch of memory in it. And from that point forward, my lab morphed, and we can talk a little bit about that later as well. 2014, I got further plugged into the community, became a VMUG leader in Wisconsin and Minneapolis. And then 2019, I decided to make a run to become one of the VMUG global board of directors, and I've been a director since 2019.
Nice. I have to smile because my first Homelab, which I ran ESX or vSphere 3 or VMware Infrastructure 3, I think was a Sun 4100, which was Sun's first x86 1U server that they had. It was like a dual core 1U server. I still got one of these guys. When you plugged it in, it sounded like a jet engine, right? It had like 8 of these removable fans in it, and it was like, you couldn't even, I actually built an upstairs room in a closet just so that I could have the thing on and have a Homelab because it was just so loud, right? It was a fun time back in the 3.x days when you get for me, vMotion, what was interesting, but for me, just having a virtual machine and being able to create as many of them as I wanted. I could have 7 to 10 VMs running different OSs. And I was like, oh, this is heaven, because I always want to hack around on something. And having a Linux or having another Windows or, whatever, Solaris x86, I could just run all of them on a single machine and play around and do whatever I want to do. So it was quite fun back in the 2006. This was pretty much the same time my experience there. So kind of cool, right? So now let's talk a little bit, Matt. I don't know if you have any other questions for Matt Heldstab, but
Matt, when you were using the Sunrays, was it the true hot desk experience with the cards?
Yes, it was, and that was the sweetest part. So I would be able to take my desktop with these little cards and then walk over to somebody else's Sunray, and my session just appeared. And it was interesting because Sunrays are technically a thin client. They act like a zero client, but the actual thin OS is actually a sea of Unix servers. And so you have I forget what they call it. It's been such a long time since I ran them. But you had Java desktop that would be running on the actual thin client. And then you ran the Sunreview connector that connected to your connection server. This was before UAGs and security servers.
It was quite a thing to see back in the day. I mean, it was one of those things that was out there as far as, let's call it edge computing, or even, I mean, I remember back from the Deskstone days where when you saw a full tilt Sunray implementation with the idea that you picked up that keycard access and literally took your desktop, it froze the desktop instance, and it was, what let's call it single sign-on, right? It's single sign-on via the card, where you put the physical access card back in, and then you're migrating your desktop back over. It was a pretty amazing thing. So that was one of those ones that were out there where you could see the direction of where all this was, not only the back-end technology, but then the actual implementation of it, right? So I somewhat assimilated to what we're seeing with ChatGPT right now, right? Where it all is now coming together. Where there's been so much research and whatnot of a certain platform, but then there's the visual application and the process to everything, right? All of that, those steps that led up to what we could do with a Sunray to allow that to happen had to progress between the back-end servers, connection servers, and whatever we had to do to get everything loaded for that transparency. So, and then it ultimately culminates into what is a very seamless experience, but a great visual demo for anyone that hasn't ever seen it before.
It's kind of like home automation in a way. All my wife knows is that my lights turn on at night and they turn off at 11 p.m. outside of her garage. She doesn't understand that there's a whole thing where an hour after sunset, do this, and these skills or Alexa routines that have to be run.
Homebridge running in the background, right? That has a Raspberry Pi sitting there that probably has some type of Pi hat running to power the Pi, and then keeping Homebridge up to date. Sure, right. It's all of the things that culminate together with tech to make it a seamless experience. And I think that we can say that as part of using Homelabs to make us appreciate all of those individual components that come together. I think within our space, right, being EUC technologists of the integrations between the Workspace ONE and Horizon portfolio, right, of how that all comes together between access and presenting desktops as tiles and whatnot, between disparate resources, whether it's traditional Horizon CPA infrastructure between multiple pods, and now what we can do with Horizon Cloud. We're mixing both those on-prem desktops and let's call it cloud native or DaaS-like services that are out there in platforms like Horizon on Azure. So that home lab really makes you appreciate all of those components that need to come for what looks like a very easy solution.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Now we enter the current state of affairs, right, which is vSphere 8's coming out. And I know that, Matt, we've seen an uptick in the VMUG Advantage program sales, right, which is one of the main ways VMUG gets funded. So for all of you listening, if you haven't bought a VMUG Advantage upgrade, right, there's a bunch of stuff you get with VMUG Advantage. And I know being on the board now, I get to see how VMUG is funded. And VMUG Advantage is like maybe 30% of all funding for the whole whole org, right, is done by the VMUG Advantage sales, where, I don't know how many, I don't want to quote numbers on the show, but it is probably a third of all of VMUG budget. And VMUG budget is up and down. It's important, right? When we go out to all the cities and chapter meetings and user cons and, all the things we do, VM Worlds and the VMUG, the party, all this stuff is funded, takes real money. And the VMUG Advantage is a great way to contribute. We don't go out and say, hey, here's a GoFundMe page, give us money, right, for VMUG. We actually give you value, which I kind of like. It's like, I don't like seeing people standing out on that corner saying, give me money. I'd much rather see a car wash where I can drive by, get a car wash, get some value, pay them some money, and everybody wins, right? And I think that VMUG Advantage is that way, which is we got a bunch of stuff, including a whole bunch of licenses, right? So if you're not a VExpert, right, and you don't get licenses, you can just spend $200 and get a bunch of licenses, but also a bunch of other stuff. And I think that's really cool. So maybe we can just start with like VMUG Advantage. Let's make sure everybody knows what it is. Give us the 2-second elevator pitch on that, and then we'll talk about what does it mean to get the set up on your Homelab.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody knows, or most people know, that a VMUG membership is a free membership, and it comes with a lot of fantastic things, including the membership of the community itself. You can join your local group. You can attend local group meetings. You can attend our user conferences where they have amazing content where VMware and VMUG will fly people from Silicon Valley or wherever they may be to come out and see. And it's really our flagship event that we've had for years. And a lot of the folks that present community sessions at these larger events, the user conferences, they'll present on what they're doing with their Homelab, or they will actually talk about how they are taking their skill set to the next level using VMware technologies in a home environment. The challenge with that is you can't just take your work licensing with you home, right? Some people have nice test environments at home and they're able to use those in order to get to the next level. But for those that would prefer to have some compute at home and perhaps some storage, that's the big limiting factor is licensing, because as you know, VMware licensing is not cheap. And VMUG Advantage and what we call eval experience, which gives you a 365-day evaluation instance of many VMware software titles, vSphere, vSAN, Horizon, vRealize Operations, vRealize Automation. All of these technologies are at your fingertips, and if you have the compute and the resources at home, you can have your own home environment. So myself personally, I love using my Advantage keys for, I really have two separate labs. I have kind of a nested sandbox that is completely throwaway, and I can use it for proving out concepts and then destroy it and then build it again. And then I've got a whole bunch of Intel NUCs. I shouldn't say a whole bunch. I got 3 of them. They're actually right up there on my shelf. And as you were saying earlier today, they're very quiet. The wife acceptance factor is very good, which is super important. That is a technical term.
Wife acceptance factor.
Yes,
I like the power bill acceptance factor as well, right, on those guys.
Yeah, oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
when they go into sleep mode, they're like 10 watts, right, which is nothing for the money.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And the nice thing about the Intel NUCs is I think 1.1 gigahertz processors, but then they can ramp up if you need it. So if you want to do folding at home on them, you can. You'll pay a bit more money if those CPUs ramp up. But when you're not ramped up, they're very affordable for your energy bill. But so anyway, I've got a production-ish lab that I actually try and keep up at all times. And so, for instance, my family, when they hit our Wi-Fi, the DNS servers for our Wi-Fi are actually my domain controllers in my lab. And so now you're talking about if your lab is down, there could be a slight issue. And so I
family QoS, Matt. It's a dangerous path
to
start down.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is. But it makes you think twice about your updates for sure. And actually, just this week, I've been able to do all of my upgrades to get me fully up on vSphere 8, the newest version of Log Insight, and VROPS, and vCenter, and Horizon, and all that. So, and the family is not upset, which is good. So,
I'll tell you a funny joke here. It's like my son came to me, and he's out of college now, but he still lives at home because of COVID. But he does a lot of stuff. He works from home and that. And he comes to me and he goes, "Dad, how come we just can't have regular internet like all my friends?" He's just like, ours tends to go up and down, right? Like, and why can't we just have regular old Comcast that just connects with a Wi-Fi hub? And it hurt me, man. It stabbed me right through the chest there. I'm like, what are you talking about? We have great internet.
yeah. And I think that they'll always say that. They'll always think the internet's going up and down, and it might not have anything to do with your environment.
Yeah, my environment. But I do have unique environments because the same thing, right? We build home labs and we're wiring things, and we just have interesting things that are running, and they know that. And so they're like, we have to go into Dab's lab closet to get the internet back up if I'm not around, right? So it's interesting.
Now, Matt, have you gone down the dangerous path of deploying a desktop pool for the family to use within your Horizon environment?
So when my kids were younger, I actually gave them Java Desktop to run Minecraft on Sunrise with the hot desking cards.
Yeah, that would work. Yep,
so
that would work.
That was pretty sweet. It is difficult. I had a chat with my son. We decided instead to build a gaming rig. There was a time where I was considering buying an aftermarket grid card and putting it into a DL360 Gen 8,
sure,
and then giving him a virtual desktop to do gaming. And it would have been about a $2,000 video card, but we decided against it. So instead, we took that money and I decided to build a gaming rig with him, and that was a fun experience.
Yeah, that's a great use case that I do for one of my Intel NUCs. Is I just designate it as a Minecraft server, and we don't play Minecraft that much anymore, but we have an immense world that we've set up, and it's kind of like going home when you go in there, right? You got all kinds of caves and stairwells and castles and railroad tracks and just everything. And I like to keep it up, but it's expensive to put it on a regular x86 server. But a NUC, if you're not using it, it's 10 watts, no fan, no nothing. And then if everybody wants to come in, you're using it. It spins up its CPUs. It's there, and we can use it. It's always up, and I forget about it, but it's always there. So it's kind of fun.
We did the same thing. My Minecraft server was running on vSphere though, but we did the exact same thing, and I just left it up all the time.
Right.
So.
Right. Cool. And so, when we get now into, VMUG Advantage is a great way to get the vSphere 8 licenses, right? And all the other licenses you get with that, right? And so if you're thinking about the holiday, and then because we gave away these NUCs to all the vExperts, they're not an Intel NUC, they're a Max-Tang NUC, but they're, they use the new Celeron processor, which is a 4-core, 3 gigahertz per core CPU, dual HDMI out, 4K HDMI dual, so you can use it for all kinds of stuff. USB 3.0, bunch of ports, hot dog cooking because it doesn't use a fan, so it has aluminum grill fins that are great. Nice little guy. If people want to get started in a home lab, we have a URL, livecopper/products/VMUG home lab, and they've got that up there for I think $259 or $249 for the kit. Comes with I think 8 gig of memory plus a 256 SSD. So that's what we gave out to same systems we gave out to all the vExperts. So the vExperts have a lot of knowledge. You're going to put some blog articles out on them so that you can put vSphere on them. I think you have to upgrade the memory to 32 gig or 64 gig. There's SIMs out there, but a great way to get started. And that's out there. We're going to be running a promotion on that throughout the rest of the holiday season, where you can go get that. They'll ship them to you, and we're going to give you 12 days of Christmas fun tasks that people are going to go get started. You can get your VMs up and running, get vSphere up and running, get Tanzu installed if you want. All of this was stuff that we did at VMworld Explore in US and Europe, talked about how to do that, showed everybody the nooks. So if you're listening to this, you didn't get to go to VMworld, or you're not a vExpert, but you want to become a vExpert, one of the easiest ways is to go get your Homelab set up. $450 if you include the VMUG Advantage license that you'll need to get all the licenses. Then you're up and running, and for $450, that's actually a pretty good deal, right? And then if you don't really like run a vSphere or whatever, you can always make it a Plex server or some other, or a Minecraft server, or many other silent servers that you could just sit in your house and sit on your network and have some fun with it. So kind of a fun promotion. I think we put the link in the YouTube chat if you want to go check that out. And then we'll be promoting this and promoting the 12 Days of Christmas tasks that we did last year. We'll do again this year. So if you're looking for something fun to do over the holiday break or all the way through January through March, this is a way to do that. And if you do spend the $450 on this to get your own lab, you're supporting VMUG by, giving $200 to VMUG for the licenses per year. VMware gives the licenses for free to VMUG. So all of that money goes directly into the .org, which is a nonprofit, to make it fun for you to show up. And then we are going to try to do some VMUG home lab activities at VMUG meetings throughout the year. We're trying to get some funding for that for VMware, so that you can show up to your chapter meetings and your user cons and talk about cool things that you've done with your home labs. So it should be a lot of fun. So Matt, am I missing anything there? I think that's pretty much what we're trying to do.
I think there's some key things that we're not calling out with Advantage that we really need to go down. So I wanted to at least, the one that I think of right off the top of the bat is, if a community member is out there that is thinking about taking a certification exam, whether for personal development or they need it for that next step in their career or what have you, that there is significant both training and then the test itself discounts that are included as part of that Advantage program. So you get the licenses, plus there's the discount on the certification tests and the training if you would need it to go with those tests. So many people say that if you're just even looking at one major certification, so a CAP, for example, so an advanced, I always use the CAP analogy, but think of it as a VCAP, right? VMware Certified Advanced Professional. That the discount itself that you would get then pays for your Advantage subscription, and then any other further discounts that you would want for additional certifications would be gratis. Plus, you're getting the all of the licenses. And Mr. Heldstab, I'm sure that you can go into some of the other things that we are now including, as far as, I would think, the Explore discount that we get for the in-person. And then I can, either yourself or I could talk about what's out there with Test Drive.
Right. So that's a great point. And that's always, even more than the eval experience licensing, the easiest way to get somebody to buy in to VMUG Advantage is you simply ask them, are you looking at taking any VMware authorized training, an install, configure, manage, or an optimize and scale? And the bottom line is, a 5-day training session can be pretty expensive. And if you look at saving 20% off of a $4,000 training, I mean, do the math, right? That's $800. If VMUG Advantage only costs you $200, that's kind of a no-brainer in my mind, because then you'll be saving $600 even after you pay for Advantage. And then, like you said, there is a VMware Explore discount. So that is a $100 discount that you can get as well. So if you're looking at attending, which I highly recommend if you've never been, it's a fantastic event. And there are also some ad hoc online training programs that you get discounts of, I think, up to 35% on. several other events, like for instance, there are Advantage focused webinars that folks like, I think Amanda Blevins has been on in the past, and these are opportunities that not necessarily everybody can take advantage of. But if you're an Advantage member, there's an awful lot, and thank you for putting the link in the chat there to VMUG Advantage. But it's such a fantastic program, and I've been taking advantage of it for years, and along with my coworkers too. So that's something that if you have a whole bunch of people at your org that are interested, I think they'll even do group discounts. So it's something to chat about. But yeah.
So we also have Test Drive out there. And for those of us that are not familiar with Test Drive, right? So this is, if you know what our hands-on lab platform is, with as far as introduction to a myriad of different products within the VMware portfolio. It could be everything from the Horizon suite to Workspace ONE to the ARIA, and where we're headed with anything with SD-WAN. Almost everything out there has some component of a hands-on labs. What Test Drive is an extended run of those hands-on lab configurations. We often use it within the TAM org to deploy that out there if you want to, have an extended test environment. So if someone is looking to do that initial deployment that's out there for maybe that single NUC, but then doesn't have the resources right away to do, the full-blown deployment where they would want to do maybe, vCenter or something that would really be workload intensive before they make that next big financial commitment that would be out there. Test Drive is included. And this uses a lot of that back-end VCD technologies that are out there to spin up these environments in a pre-configured state. Some walk you through the build process. Some are ready to go, and they're all there with video guides and walkthroughs and step-throughs with the individual deployment or operational process. It's fantastic. It's hands-on labs on steroids. So another feature that above and beyond the licensing, the training discounts, the Explore discount that's out there that you get with Advantage at $200 a year. And I'm sure if the listeners are Googling around, we say 200 USD a year, but there is plenty of discount codes that are out there. I'm sure, Matt, you can drop one right now if you know one.
I don't, unfortunately, but I bet I could Google it and find it in 10
I'm
seconds.
sure, yeah. I'm sure that there would be plenty that would be out there that a member could find if you haven't done so already. So let's say for $180 some a year, a heck of a lot of value between the training discounts, certification discounts, what we're out there with Explore, Test Drive, all of those eval licenses. It's a great thing. I've used it for several years before becoming a VMware employee, and it was the TechNet of old, right? That's what I always think of when I was walking around and selling this, selling, so to say, at or proclaiming the benefits at VMware or VMworld. And the analogy that I often used was this is our VMware's version of TechNet.
Yeah. The other thing, Matt, that I always want to come back to, I guess, Matt Lungeth, is that there's all this great value, but the reality is, it also supports VMUG, the org. So, we have 180,000 VMUG members, right? This is something that you should be able to, get covered from your company if you try, right? You should be able to go. It is also a .org. So if your company does a charity gift, it's actually a .org. You can actually, deduct it from your charitable gift giving as well, because it is a charity. It's a .org. But the reality is, this is something that we should all get used to buying our VMUG Homelab, our VMUG Advantage. $200, $180 if you get the discount code, so that you're supporting VMUG, right? We're all community. You're listening to the community podcast right now. This VMUG is the in-person, organization that you're going to most likely engage with via chapter meetings. And so the reality is, it's like you should be donating, buying this, being part of the VMUG, right? We don't ask you to pay for the car wash, but we do like when you do give us some money to keep the car wash going, right? And so I think this is great. It's not just selling all the great things you get. It's also going, hey, you know what? I tip my my Pete's Coffee vendors. I go get $1,000 out of the cash in December, and I go and I put $100 in cards, and I say thanks, and I get all their names, and I go there at the end of December, and I donate money I give money to them, so because they're hardworking making my coffees. I go there almost every day. It's one of these things that you should just do as part of your ecosystem goodwill. And I would say, even though that has all this value, which it does, it's also just what we should be doing to support our community, right? And then you get all this value, and you should be doing a Homelab. You should get to VCR8. It's just one of these checkbox things. And I know we sell probably 12,000 memberships a year, which means that it's less than 10% of all the VMUG members are actually remembering, because I'll just say remembering to come back and order, get their VMUG Advantage license. And so if you're a blogger, if you're a VExpert, you're listening to this, maybe you should take a moment and do a short little blog about VMUG Advantage. We do have the link there. They have a great landing page that has all of the benefits to that. So if you go to the link in our world, which is vmug.com/membership/VMUG Advantage membership, go write a cute little blog showcasing the cool checkbox features you get, and let's get all 180,000 members to go put their $200 in the kitty so that we can have an amazing community environment and all the chapter meetings and all the user cons. And people talk about, that we have too many sponsorships at the VMUG, the VMUG meetings sometimes. How come we have just so many sponsorships? I think the answer is, well, if we actually sold all 180,000 VMUG Advantage licenses, we wouldn't have to have a single vendor give us money to do sessions, right? And so I think it's always good to have vendors there, because vendors also have value. They're part of the V community. But at the same time, we get less than 10% of the people actually coming and putting their $200 on the table, right? So I would say, don't even go look for a discount code. Go purchase it and then figure out how to expense it or get a charity contribution from your company, and let's support the VMUG community as we should be every year. So that's my 2 cents with all of this. Even though it has great value and you should be doing Homelab, we should also be looking at the end of the year to support our favorite charity, which is VMUG.
That's
Support
fantastic.
your local PBS station.
Yes, right.
Yes,
There you go.
yes. Now that's great looking outward, but the bottom line is you can also look inward and what you can do to help yourself grow as a tech in IT in general, right? So if you get VMUG Advantage, and let's just say you get one of those labs, and then you can start blogging. And for me, the way I started blogging was it had nothing to do with me talking about what I think the community needs to know. It was self-documentation. Right. That's all it was. And I remember back in the day, I needed to remember how to do virtual data center licensing for Red Hat, for example. And I blogged that. And then about 3 years later, a gentleman you may know, Kyle Ruddy, right? He actually reached out to me and said, I'm at a customer's site, and they told me that your blog is the Bible for how to do virtual data center licensing on Red Hat. I looked at my blog and I was getting 300 to 400 hits a day on it. You never know what you're going to put on your blog that the community needs, and you may not even realize they need it. And from that point forward, I kept blogging, and then obtained VExpert, and then VExpert opens up a whole lot of other doors as well. So it's just great for yourself as well as helping the VMUG org.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but it's international. So if you're in Lisbon, or you're in different places, you're in Japan, you're in Australia, New Zealand, go through all the countries that we also support as well. It's important to know that if you're listening to the show, international, this pays for all of it, right? We have a Europe VMUG, very active. We pay money for them to run part of that. We're in all the Asian countries, so it is one of these things that's global, and we're supporting everybody all across the globe. So it's important. One other thing, Matt, I'm representing Matt Heldstab. I'm representing the lazy man, right? I always go, oh, I'm gonna do my next Homelab project, and you should do the Homelab project. But if you're a lazy man like me, where you never get around to actually doing the project, just go buy the VMUG license anyway, right? Because we need that support, and that way, if you never get around to it, at least you did the right thing, which is supporting VMUG. And then if you get around, you know how many projects I have that I've bought stuff for, but then I haven't gotten to it yet. Like I got a lot of that stuff laying around. Don't forget to go check that VMUG Advantage box. Make that happen, even if you're not going to get to every project you want to do next year. Because Matt Longath, I know you're like me. You probably have 30 projects laying around right now that's just waiting to do that you haven't gotten to yet.
Story of my life, Eric. Story of
all of our lives. This is the geek thing, right? I mean, I still have a Lego robotics kit, one of the Lego robotics 3.0 kits that I bought like 15 years ago to do with one of my kids. And I looked at it and it's not even opened, right? It's just sitting there. That was like a $300 kit that I got that,
probably a $900 kit now for vintage Lego collectors.
I bet. Yeah, that's true. And it's like there's just so many cool geeky things to do, but I think that we have to remember that, we need funding every year, and this is a great way to do it. And by the way, you get a discount on the VMUG Explorer, which in its own right is just worth it. And to your point of you probably should be doing a certification every year, that's also worth it. And there's a lot of reasons to worth it. But I'm all about going and getting a Homelab and getting up to speed and make sure you got vSphere 8 running, because I think it's going to be a great year for vSphere 8 and going forward. I heard that Amazon missed its numbers and the cloud is way overrated, and everybody's still running stuff in their data centers, and we're going to double down on that, right? You're going to need to know vSphere 8, vSphere 9, vSphere 10. It's going to keep going and going. What else am I missing here, guys? We have 2 more minutes till the end of the top of the hour. Matt Heldstab, how do people follow you? I see your Twitter handle is at, so why don't you spell it out?
At Matt Heldstab, so MATTHELDSTAB. I am also on LinkedIn. I may be the only Matt Heldstab in the world. It is a rare Swiss name, and I kind of like that. Well, but feel free to reach out.
Good. Also, give him a follow. Yeah, give him a follow. What is your blog? What is your blog?
My blog is tcwd.net/vblog. I'm in the middle of taking that blog and migrating it to a domain called www.vmat.net. But I am
vmat.net. Yeah, that's an easy one to remember. Good branding there, right? So happy to do that. And Matt Longath, as always, it's at GSXESX. Easy one to remember. Go follow Matt as well.
Matt, one of the things that you're known for within the EUC community is the relationship that's out there with the Minneapolis VMUG and your EUC Day, right? That has always been a quintessential event for EUC technologists and whatnot. Do you have that plan for 23? Any updates to share as far as dates, speakers, anything to that effect that you'd like to share with the community?
Yes, absolutely. So EUC Day is an event that started in Minneapolis in 2016, and it was so wildly popular. We had a couple hundred attendees, and for a product-specific event at a VMUG, that is unheard of. So we ended up taking that to 4 cities in 2017, and we've had several of those events so far. We did virtual events in 2020 and 2021, and as you can imagine, an end user computing event during COVID was massively popular. I think we ended up with somewhere around 3,500 attendees for the 2020 and 2021 instances. Now, as you say, there is one coming up in 2023. This is actually the announcement, release announcement. It is February 16th, 2023. It will be online, so it is a global virtual event. We are currently recruiting speakers, and if you are interested in presenting at the event, feel free to use the VMUG call for content. That is a platform that will open you up to be able to present not just at EUC Day, but at some of our local user groups, at our UserCon events. And I think that there's a good possibility one of the folks on this podcast, I'm looking at you, Matt, might be presenting at the event on Horizon Cloud. So that will be a fantastic thing as well. We've got several European folks that are looking at attending or that are looking at presenting as well. I think that we have Johan von Amersfoort will be doing at least one of the keynotes. And then it's not official yet, but we are hoping Sean Bass, as per normal, will be able to do our morning keynote. So I'm super looking forward to the event. It's a fantastic program, and we're looking forward to doing this for years to come. But thanks for the call.
Sean do the keynote at the Milwaukee UserCon, and Sean, is the ultimate consummate professional with things, all things EUC. And if you really want to hear how all of these, now there's well over 100 products that we have within the EUC portfolio. We think, VDI and then Workspace ONE on both the modern and mobile device, but now we're expanding into things like the digital employee experience and some of the things of enablements, like what we heard from certain large partners that are out there, of what we can do with HR programs as far as employee retention and employee onboarding. Some of the stories that came out of both Explore in San Francisco and Barcelona, of what does it mean now that we have a framework on this device above and beyond management. And Sean's keynotes put all of that together in context, right? Of above and beyond the anywhere workspace of any device, anywhere, at any time, how that enablement now gets us to carry on to these next steps, and these where we can, put technologies in place to really drive business and solve business tech challenges. So if you haven't seen that and you're within the EUC space like Matt and I are, it is a fantastic talk to listen to Sean go on for about an hour, and it flies by because it's done in such a concise way to bring that entire product portfolio together. It's always a keynote that I love to hear.
Sean is such a gifted speaker. I love hearing him talk. I was supposed to be down in Milwaukee for the UserCon on December 1st, and unfortunately I had a personal thing that I needed to take care of, and I wasn't able to attend. But yeah, what a joy watching him present. And there are a lot of his sessions, some of his EUC presentations at VMworld are just amazing. So, but yeah, for sure, if you guys are interested, February 16th, look for an announcement coming up shortly. I also curate a Twitter account at EUC Day. I have not updated it with this information yet, but I will before too long. But look for future announcements coming from that Twitter account as well as from VMUG.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
And, last but not least, before we let you go, Matt did give us the 10% off on the VMUG Advantage, which 10% on $200 should be like $20, which will put you at the 180 mark, which is Advantage 10, all uppercase and 10 at the end. So Advantage 10 through Advantage 10% off. Go get that. Buy it for yourself for Christmas, charity, whatever you want to do. Go get that done, because vSphere 8 licenses are available now, and you get your Homelab over the holiday. Go pick up one of these Nooks. You'll get that shipped out to you in 2 days. So you can get yourself a Homelab piece of hardware, which is quiet. And there's no reason you shouldn't have a lot of fun over the holiday break this year, going into January. Then a lot of cool stuff happening. VMUG has live streams going on. There's a Super Cloud event in January. VMUG meetings spin up. So a lot of activity. Should be fun to get into 2023. Okay, guys, I guess we're done. Matt Longeth, Matt, thanks a lot for being here as always. It's going to be a holiday. I hope you guys get some time off. Everybody does, so that we can recharge and be ready for 2023. Matt Heldstab, thanks a lot for coming on the show and talking about VMUG Advantage.
Thanks for having me. I had a blast. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes, happy holidays. Matt Longeth, happy holidays to you as well.
Same to you, Eric, and same to all of our community. Wish everyone a good downtime if you're able to take advantage of it, and looking forward to what's coming here in 23.